So training consistency is a really important topic and I wanted to talk about it a little bit. This was going to be a live stream, but I worked out that my YouTube live stream doesn't work yet. So live streams will be coming in the next couple of days. But essentially, when it comes to consistency, I think it's a beaten to death topic, and that's cool and it's good because it means that a lot of people are talking about it. But I think that we generally talk very surface level just about what consistency is and why it's important, and maybe like a couple strategies to try to achieve it, but we don't necessarily talk about the deeper things that relate to it, which I think is important to understand so that one, it can emphasize the importance of consistency for you and your goals, but then two, also so that we can make decisions around how we maintain our consistency rather than just applying tips that we learnt from the internet. So essentially, first off, when we talk about consistency, it's just about getting in repeat reps. And the reason that this is important in training is the same reason that consistency is important in anything. The more practice you get, the more attempts that you get, the better that you get at something. And the better that we get at training and exercise, the more benefit that we're going to get out of it and the more results that we're going to get. The really interesting thing with training is it's not necessarily only about the skill element, but also because of the adaptation element. Because if we get more ability to build that muscular adaptation, like literally inside the muscle, then we're going to get to have more of those 1% benefits over time. So yeah, that's really what the base of consistency is about. Now, when we're trying to build consistency, you've probably heard a bunch of different ways of trying to keep it. Yeah, you might have tips and tricks like leaving your workout clothes on the bed or scheduling it into your calendar. But I think that something that we don't talk about all the time is that by trying to maintain consistency, we then, on the flip side, need to not do the things that prevent us from being consistent. Now, what does that mean? It means that if I want to be able to train every single day, there's a bunch of things that I can't do by virtue of that. Okay, and just as a little side note here, I'm not saying in this video that you need to be training every single day. I'm just positioning that as like the epitome, the top position of the most consistent person. So all of these things still apply, just based on the scale or the level that you're at, right? So let's say that you want to be active every single day, you want to run every single day, you want to gym every single day, or like some sort of combination of both, right? In order to be able to do that, you can't have late nights where you're going to sleep at 4 a.m. And it means that you're tired through the first part of the day and you can't do anything before work or after work, right? So you can't be doing things that fatigue you to that level, right? So if you work from 9 to 5 every single day, you can't be going to sleep at 4 and then as soon as you get home from work, opening up a case of beers and trying to drink as much as you can, right? It just doesn't work. If you want to every single Saturday rock up to the gym because it's your first day after work, it means that you probably don't want to be going out drinking the night before and getting absolutely sloshed so that on the Saturday you feel like utter garbage, right? It means that if you're scheduling out your week, that you can't put things that make it harder for you to be consistent with the gym, right? Like you can't have a full day of activities if on the Saturday you want to actually get some sort of gym in rather than necessarily like doing all the things on the one day. You just need to make your life in a way that is actually effective for health and well-being and exercise. Right? So maybe you choose your gym so that it's on your drive home from work, so that it is more convenient to get to and it doesn't take a whole bunch of extra time. It's all good and well to say that I'm going to do all of these different strategies to be the best discus thrower in the world, but if you don't own your own discuses and you don't have access to them at any time, then how are you going to be able to do that? So set up your life in a way that actually builds towards consistency rather than pulling you away from consistency. And maybe if you do that, then you don't need so many tips and tricks to achieve consistency, right? We're trying to reduce the barrier, make it so that you don't need 17 different little things that are pulling at you to make you more consistent. Maybe just reduce the amount of things that are pulling you away from consistency. So that's number one, okay? So that is how we try to be consistency. I think that's the part that we don't necessarily always talk about. Then use those little tips and tricks once you sort that out, okay? So once you've made it so that your life actually pushes you in a direction of not missing that consistency, then you can start to do things that are going to start to pull you towards, yeah? So making sure that maybe you have things set up with friends, yeah? Doing exercise with friends is a really, really useful tool so that you can continue to move forwards because it locks you into things and makes you accountable to someone. Maybe keeping a training diary, maybe having Strava where you put your things up and it makes it so that it actually happens, so that you're actually wanting to train rather than actively pulling against it. So all of those things then can be a useful thing. And those are the things that make it so that you rock up session over session. Now, why is that important for our own adaptation? When we look at adaptation, we have a super compensation graph, right? So I'm actually going to grab it and draw it here. When we go through it, we have our level of adaptation and time. So if I've got how fit or how capable I am and over time, okay? If I do not much and just maintain, I'm gonna be sitting around there, right? It's not ever gonna be exactly level because we're constantly like going up and down, but I'll explain that in a second. Then right here is a bout of training. So I might have a training session here. It could be gym, it could be running, it could be whatever, yeah? Whatever training we do imposes a certain amount of stress on us. And stress can be life stuff as well. And the reason I like using stress instead of necessarily like training level as the word is because by talking about stress in general, we take into account the fact that other things are going to make our performance lower. Yeah, remember this part here is performance, okay? Our ability to perform. So if this line was, I don't know, a breakup or stressful time at work or anything like that, our performance would go down. We might just not necessarily see the same up afterwards, okay? But for our purposes today, that is our training, okay? When we have that training happen, our performance level or our ability to perform goes down, yeah? Now, the reason that it goes down is because we have a level of fatigue and our muscles literally physically break down. Yeah, so we physically have a breakdown of our muscles, which makes it harder. That's why if you have a really, really big session one day, the next day, you probably can't lift as much, right? If you tried to do the exact same lifts every single day, so on and so forth, and you were pushing really, really hard, then you're actually gonna potentially overtrain and you're not gonna have that ability to actually continue to improve your performance. But also on top of that, you've got more muscle fibers that are broken down, so you perform worse, okay? So you go down here. Now, our body is an adaptive system and it is looking for the things that you are doing to it and it wants to respond to them, okay? The reason it wants to respond to them is because we are constantly trying to be at our fittest, and we want to be at our fittest because that is what has let us survive for however many years, right? For us to be able to continue to perform and survive and pass on our genes and all that kind of stuff, we need to be able to be at our top performance. So what we do is we take the food that we eat, the energy that we eat, the protein that we eat, and we convert it back into muscle fibers because we have used them, right? And this starts to go back up. But the interesting thing is that our body recognizes, hey, this person just threw everything at me, yeah? They lifted 100 kilos 100 times, whatever, yeah? They did it a bunch of times. So I need to be fitter for that so that I can deal with it next time, because next time I don't know what they're gonna throw at me. So it then overcompensates. So this is called overcompensation, where we were here, and then it builds back up here. Now, in your training week, what you should be aiming to do is to allow for this to happen and come down. That is from hard training, that is from challenging yourself. So train in a way that reduces your performance level for a small period of time and then lets it supercompensate. Now, at a certain point, this is going to level out. If we do nothing, this is going to level out and then slowly go back down, because we know that if we don't use it, then we lose it, right? So if we did absolutely nothing, if we didn't have another one of these training bouts, we would slowly go back down. But instead, if we have another training bout here, then all of a sudden we drop a lot quicker, but then again, we rise bigger again. Yeah? So the goal is to always train when we're on that way back up, okay? Now there's a couple of things here. We can reduce this frequency or the distance between these two a couple of different ways, yeah? Now firstly, this might be affected in multiple different ways, yeah? So this chart here might be talking about performance in terms of how many muscle fibers we have to contract, yeah? So I don't know what this number would be, but let's say in a certain area you have 10 muscle fibers to contract here, 10. We go down because we break some of them down. We then go back up, that right there would be 12, yeah? 14, 16, whatever, these are arbitrary units, yeah? So we can work on this. Then on another day, we can have something that's a little bit different, yeah? So we might work on a strength day on this or a hypertrophy day on this, but then pretty soon after that, or potentially probably before that actually, we might have like a power day where we get to work on our ability to recruit muscle fibers quickly, yeah? So power days are gonna have more of a neuromuscular benefit and then a fast twitch fiber benefit rather than a slow twitch fiber benefit, which might be something like our hypertrophy or our strength, yeah? So we can reduce the time for this, or the time between these training bouts being able to happen, by having one day that, and then let me grab a different colored pen, and then having another day where we're working on something else. Maybe this training bout happens here. We drop, we supercompensate, and then we have another training bout here. So here now, we have multiple qualities happening at once. This can also be things like our endurance for our running and all that kind of stuff, right? So a bunch of different qualities can happen at once. And then all of a sudden, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, yeah? We have different qualities working at once. We could get a third color out and have 3 different qualities. So we can change our training so that we have different, different types of training. Yeah, and that's where like a more athletic split day might come in, where you have like hypertrophy, a power day, and then like an endurance or like just cardio day, right? So that's one way of increasing the amount of training sessions so that you can still allow for this super compensation. Yeah. Another way might be having upper and lower days. Yeah. So let's say that this top chart is our upper day. We might then also have our lower day where these bouts happen at opposite times, there, but this is for our legs and this is for our uppers, yeah? Or this is for our push and this is for our pull, yeah? And all of a sudden, we can work on having more bouts more often, which improves consistency, which improves our training outcomes, yeah? The other way that we can improve this super compensation cycle is by doing things to improve our recovery, right? So if we all of a sudden, let me have a new one. If we all of a sudden look at the different things that we're doing to recover well, they're mainly things like food and sleep. Yeah, those are gonna be our main 2 things. Then you look at things like maybe like active recovery or pool recovery or using those like Normatec boots or whatever it is, right? You can do a bunch of different things for recovery. The main 2 are gonna be food or sleep. Now, somebody who doesn't do that very well, they might be here. They might have a huge training session. Normally these people who don't do a heap of recovery or don't really focus on their recovery, they end up just smashing really big training sessions. So let's say huge training session here, yeah? Their performance drops. But what they're doing for their, let's say that they don't train again, what they're doing for their recovery doesn't really allow for good recovery of whatever quality that is. So instead of going back up here like this, they end up going up across here. Yeah, that might look like only sleeping a few hours every single night. Yeah, not enough. Or maybe just eating pretty garbage. Yeah, maybe you're just not getting your protein in. Maybe all of your macronutrients and micronutrients are mucked up, right? Maybe you're eating McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But that time becomes more drawn out. For us to get higher than where we were, it takes longer. And then this means that it takes us from Monday to like Friday to actually be ready for another training session. Whereas if we actually recover well, we might have the same really huge training session here, but we're sleeping 8 hours a night, we're eating really, really well, we're looking at our timing, we're looking at making sure that we're getting enough protein in, enough carbs, enough fats, making sure that we're actually getting like good quality foods, so a bunch of different vegetables and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, instead, we'd still go down there, but our recovery goes up much quicker. And then instead, we're able to train that same muscle group, quality, whatever, on Wednesday instead of Friday. Yeah? If we fit in more of these sessions, if we do 2 sessions instead of 3 sessions a year, we end up getting 104 sessions on something instead, 156 sessions on something instead of 104. Yeah? That's 33% more. You end up 50% more. You actually end up getting so much more benefit over the year. Yeah, so many more little improvements. Okay, so this is how we make it so that we're able to train more often, more consistently, and actually get benefit out of that consistency. If we don't do this stuff, if we don't do that recovery, if we don't think about what sessions we're doing on what days to allow for that super compensation to occur with those particular outcomes, then we actually hurt our ability to take benefit from the different things that we're doing and the consistency that we get. Yeah. And if we think about it in this kind of a way, it makes it very clear that consistency on its own in terms of the qualities that we want to, or the things that we want to do to achieve consistency isn't the whole picture. Those things, if you take a scroll back and you look through again, those things that I spoke about in terms of things that aren't going to take away our ability to be consistent, the late nights, the this, that, the other, they're those same things that help us improve our ability to super compensate and be ready to train a lot sooner after. So if you're trying to get more out of your gym sessions so that you can continue developing forwards, that even applies when it comes to being able to have your gym sessions so that you can perform better on game day if you're in season, then it's really important to consider those different things so that we can improve our performance over time and we can improve our development over time. I think that's all that I really wanted to go through today regarding that. If you do have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to continue to explain things further. I want to continue to refine these ideas and how we necessarily get them across. So let me know, reach out. But otherwise, I will see you again soon for another idea workshop video.